In this video series, I'm going to take you through the complete process of designing, building, and launching a website for a personal portfolio. We'll start off the series in Adobe XD, where we'll create the design. Then we'll go to Webflow, where we're going to build out the site and make it responsive. And finally, we'll host the website with Hostinger, and I'll take you through each process step by step. So I hope you're ready to build out a custom portfolio website in this 3-part video series sponsored by Hostinger. Whether you've just built your website or you're migrating an existing website, Hostinger is an affordable web hosting provider. Like their premium shared web hosting, which is currently at $2.99 when you use the link in the description, hostinger.com/Kaler. This will give you up to 100 websites, 100 gig of SSD storage. You even get 100 emails and a free domain name. Not to mention that you have access to Hostinger's H panel, which is their simplified and intuitive solution to the C panel, which really shows when you start navigating through the H panel, setting things up like your SSL, your business emails, and editing and managing your hosting. But we'll dive more into the H panel when we start building and hosting our website later on in the series. But for now, thanks to Hostinger for making this series possible. Don't forget to check them out with the link in the description. And make sure you use code Kaler at checkout to get an extra 7% off your web hosting plan in addition to any annual discounts. That's up to 91% off. So the very first thing we want to do is create our design. We never want to start with developing a website first. It's a lot easier to change things in a design tool than it is with coded elements and classes. So I went ahead and loaded up Adobe XD, and I've created a brand new project. So I've selected my artboard and set it to 1920 by 1080, which is a nice web-sized artboard. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on the grid layout. We're going to be using the 12 columns. And I'm just going to click on the swatch and lower the opacity a bit just so we can see through it as we're designing. A 12-column grid is a pretty popular thing. You can Google it if you'd like to learn more about it, but we're just going to use this to kind of align our elements as we're designing. It makes things a little bit easier. So I like to work from top to bottom. So we're going to start with the navigation of the website and then work our way down. So T on the keyboard for the type tool, and I'll just type in some junk text. So I'm going to go ahead and select the artboard, and I'm going to double click on the name, and I'll just call it Wireframe. And for our logo, I'm just going to scale that down. We'll set it to 24 points, and I'm going to bump that up to a medium-sized weight. Lining that on the far left side column, and we'll put 60 points from the top of the artboard. Just using my arrow keys on my keyboard to move that around. And then we want to have a navigation here on the right. So I'll just grab the line tool, holding shift, I'll drag out a simple line, 4 to the size, and I'll set it to 32 points in width. I'm going to hold Option or Alt on the keyboard and click and drag to make a duplicate. We'll go with 14 points in between them. I'm going to click and drag to select them and hit Command or Control G to group that together. And then we have a nice little hamburger menu. And I'll just put that in the top right corner. I'm going to make sure these are vertically aligned, which they are. Next, we need some links. So I'm going to hold Option and drag out on this logo. And we're going to change this to a regular weight. And we'll change the font weight to 18, so it's a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to put that to the right of our hamburger icon. And we'll go with about 50 points in between the hamburger icon and that link. Holding Option or Alt one more time to create another one. And then 50 points in between that as well. So we have 50 here and 50 there. And then one more time, I'm just going to click and drag to select all of those and click this icon to make sure they're all vertically aligned. And now that we have that, let's actually bump this up a little bit more. So now I've bumped everything up so that it's 40 points from the top of the artboard. Next, we need our H1, which is our largest heading on the website and typically what we use first in the hero section. So I'll just grab the type tool with T on the keyboard once more, and I'll just paste in some text. And you can change the headings and everything on this page to whatever you would like specifically for your design. And by using Hostinger as our web host provider, as long as you don't include like super unoptimized images, you're going to get good, reliable speeds. And you've got plenty of storage. If you choose something like the premium plan, you have up to 100 gigabyte of SSD storage. So again, feel free to make the site your own. So I'm just going to put award winning here. I'm going to click the double capital T's to make it uppercase. And we'll set this to 144 points. So it's a very large, bold font. We're going to be designing in the trendy, bold font style. So with that, I'm just going to center align that text and then center align it to the artboard. Holding Option or Alt, I'm going to create 2 duplicates of this. The second one I'm going to have as web designer, and the last one's going to be my name. So for now, I'll just put your name. All of these are going to be stacked right on top of each other, so they're all going to be touching with no space in between them. And the top and the bottom one are going to be centered. And then for a stylized option, we're going to take this one in the middle, and we're just going to slide it on over until it touches that far left-hand column. Once we have that, we're going to create a paragraph. So I just grabbed the text link and copied that, holding Option or Alt. And I'm going to convert this to a text area with this icon and just drag out a decent sized area. And then I have a plugin for lorem ipsum. You can just grab some lorem ipsum and paste that in. So I'll just generate a paragraph there. And that's going to be 4 columns wide. And I'll delete some of the rest of that content. I want 3 lines of text here. And then I'm going to center that with this text vertically, just like that. Now with all of that, I'm going to click and drag to select all of it and see where things are positioned. And I'm just going to move this up. And with all that selected, I have 180 points from the top of the artboard. I don't want mine perfectly centered. I want it slightly higher, just so it looks a little better. And so we can add some stuff down here at the bottom. So I'm going to grab the rectangle tool. You can also hit R on the keyboard for that. And I'm just going to drag out a rectangle. And this is going to be an image later on. So for now, I'm just going to set this to a gray color. And I'm going to hold Option or Alt and create a duplicate. And so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 columns wide. And we have 2 of them with 16 points in between each other. And then I'm just going to slide them kind of off-centered. Something like that. And then I'm going to drag them down a little bit until they are touching the bottom of the fold. And so for the hero section, which is the first section the users will see, that's pretty much all the content we want here. So I'm just going to go up and select the artboard, and I'm going to go to the height value, and I just like to multiply it by 2. So I'll just type that in. And now we have another section that's the exact same height as the last one right below it. So a trick I like to do is grab the rectangle tool and drag out a rectangle and make sure it's 1920 by 1080. And now I can use that rectangle to align anything inside of this space. So now we're going to have our H2 text, which for a nice visual hierarchy will be slightly smaller than this text. So I'm going to hold Option or Alt just to drag that out. Command Shift right square bracket key will bring that to the front, or you can also drag this over here in the layers panel to bring it on top. And for now, I'm just going to put in some junk text. So I'm going to generate a title. Again, you can just use lorem ipsum for this. And for that visual hierarchy, we need to bump down the size of this. So I'm going to go to 88. And for the line height, I'm going to go 88 times 1.2, and that will give us 120% line height. And for this text, make sure it's set to center line and uppercase. So now that we have that, I'm just going to simply click on that, hold Shift and grab that rectangle we added. And then I can go up here and vertically align that center and horizontally align that. So now that makes sure that is perfectly centered inside of this space. And so far, this is what we have. So I'm going to go up to the artboard name, and in the height value, I'm going to add another 1080 section. So plus 1080. And then we can take this rectangle that we already have and just drag it down. And we can use that to align. Also, I'm going to undo that with Command Z. Another cool thing we can do is up here at the top, we can drag down a guide. And we can put that at each marker so we can see where the different viewports are kind of broken up. So let's drag that rectangle back down. And now you can see your different sections using those guides. So for this third section, we're going to start showcasing some of our work. So I'm going to grab this text and drag it down. And then I'll just make this one word, and we'll scale that down to 52. And then we'll bump that up from regular to a medium weight just to make it a little bit more bold. And for now, I'm just going to stick this on the third column on the left. We might move that in a minute. I'm going to hold Option or Alt and drag out a duplicate. And we'll just place that somewhere around there. And then while we're showcasing our work, I want another H1. So I'm going to grab this, drag that down. I want it to say work, so I'm actually going to put that text in. And I'm going to rotate it negative 90 degrees there. And I'm just going to align this visually inside of this first column, just like that. And so that's going to stick as the user scrolls. So once they get to the section, it'll show up. And then as we keep scrolling through the different projects, this is going to stay here. And now that we have that, we can grab a rectangle and we can put where we want the project to be displayed. So let's set that to there. I'm actually going to move this over a little bit. So now I'm going to align it on the far left-hand side of this column, just so we have a little bit more space in between what's going to be our image and that text there. And another cool way you can make this rectangle is you can grab this 1920 by 1080, Command C or Control C, and then Command V or Control V to paste a duplicate. Then you can hold Shift and drag in, and that'll keep the same kind of aspect ratio as the section, which looks a little bit nicer. So I'll just recreate that. And I'm holding Shift as I scale that. So it's pretty much 11 columns wide. So I'm going to click on this rectangle and hold Shift and grab the background one and make sure that's vertically centered. Kind of overlapped our text there. So I'll just go ahead and grab that and move it out of the way. This first text is going to be aligned on this left-hand column. And this one is going to be on the right. And just so we know, I'm going to go ahead and put project name. So this first one's going to be for the project title. And then the second one, completely optional. You don't even have to make this one if you want. I'm going to put an award name or either that or a date in. But again, it's up to you. So I'll just put that there so I know what that's going to be. And then we'll grab that rectangle and I'm going to remove the border and just set it to a gray color. And so that's all we need for the work section. We're just going to copy this. I think 3 times is what I want to go with on the final site. So instead of just copying and pasting that here in Adobe XD, we're just going to use one section for now because it's exactly the same thing. So we're going to go up to the top, grab the artboard name and add 1080. I'm going to drag that guide down again to the bottom of that section and then move the rectangle down. Now for this section, after we've showcased all of the work we want to feature, we're going to have a little section that shows how many projects we've completed. So I just grabbed the text that we're using here, which is 52 points, medium. And I'm going to put that here in the top left-hand corner. And we'll put 120 spacing or so from the top of that section. And I'm going to generate some lorem ipsum. I'll change that to a paragraph, and then we'll just scale that into 6 columns or so. We need to adjust the line height here. So we'll go 52 times 1.2 for 120% line height. So it's going to be a nice paragraph. And then below that, we want a big number. Grab this big H1 text, rotate it back around to 0. And then I'm going to stick that down here in the bottom left-hand corner. So that's aligned on that far left column and the bottom of the section. And here I'm just going to put a random number in, and I'm going to make this oversized. So we'll adjust this to 288. So it's double the size that it used to be. And that's going to serve as how many projects we've completed. Next, we're going to have another heading, and this one's just going to be called Projects Completed. So I went and put that text in. This one's going to be the same size as our normal paragraph text, set to 18, and it's just going to be a little bit heavier weight. So it's set to medium, and then we'll position that about 60 points to the right of this text. And then I'm going to put a paragraph below it. So I'm just going to hold Option or Alt and copy that. And then we'll set this to 18 with a 18 times, and since it's a paragraph, I'll go 1.5 for the line height. Makes it a little easier to read. So that's going to set that to 27, and we'll bump that down to regular. And then we'll scale this in a little bit so we have 2 lines of text. And I'm just going to put some space in between the heading and the paragraph. We'll just go with 8 there. Grabbing both of those, I'm going to make sure they're vertically aligned centered to that text. And then I'm going to remove the all uppercase. So it looks a little better. Now the last section we're going to make is the footer section. And it's going to have our call to action. So I'm going to click on the artboard. And this time I'm only going to add about 720 points. Just because we don't need a full height section for this. And if I don't forget, I'm going to drag my guide down here to mark that finished section. And then we'll drag this rectangle down and just scale it down to a 720 point height. For this section in particular, I know it's going to be black because I want it to stand out. So I'm just going to go ahead and set it to black. I'm going to grab that oversized font and drag out a duplicate. And this section is going to be exactly the same. It's going to be in the bottom left corner, just like it was in the last one. Except this time it's going to say, let's talk. We'll align that to the left and then realign it there. Just like that. And then let's grab this text here, holding Option or Alt to create a duplicate. And I just want one line of text, so I'll delete that. And we'll put that about 80 points from the top. So we got a nice tagline. Let's add a question mark. So that'll say something, and then we'll have our call to action, let's talk. And let's also add an underline to that, make it stand out a little bit more. And that's going to be our completed footer. So with that, we now have our wireframe finished. So now I'm going to select that artboard, hit Command D to make a duplicate. And I'm going to drag a little space in between that. And this is going to be called Design. So you can think of this low fidelity wireframe as kind of creating a mold. And we're going to add our content into that and finish our high fidelity wireframe. And the reason we do that is so when we start building the site, we don't have to move things around. It looks good the first time we do it. And we'll do that later on in part 2 with Webflow. But since Hostinger is compatible with different platforms such as WordPress, you could also use that if you didn't want to use Webflow. For example, here's me roughly building out the site in WordPress. So you definitely can use other platforms to build the site if you just want to follow along with the design portion. But as long as we create the low fidelity and high fidelity versions of our design, when we go to develop, we're setting ourselves up for a nice, smoother process. So let's go ahead and finish the high fidelity version now. For the logo, we're just going to do a nice text logo. I'm just going to type in my name, Kaylor Edwards, and I'm going to set this to black. So we're going to have that in the corner. And then for our links, I'm going to set them to black as well. And same thing with our hamburger menu, set that to black. So I'm just going to grab all these and set them to black. We'll set the body to black as well. And for the body paragraph, we need this to have some kind of visual difference between the color of the heading. It just doesn't look as good as it could. So actually, let's go ahead and just pick a gray color for that. And we'll drag that to 4A, 4A, 4A. Looks pretty good. So for these two rectangles, it's up to you what you want to put. I just have some stock photos I'm going to put. So the first one would be an image of yourself. Of course, this is not me. And then I'm going to put maybe my office. And then I'm just going to double click to edit the crop on this and just drag that to a better position. Same with that one. So if we hit live preview, we can see what we have for our hero section. And so looking at this now, I don't like the color of this. So let's go change that. Since we added that as a swatch, we can simply right click on it and hit edit. And I'm going to make this a little lighter. It's too dark. So that's up to 6A, 6A, 6A. Now looking at the navigation, we've got the hamburger menu. I actually don't think we need that. So let me turn on our columns again. And we're doing a one-page website design. So everything's going to just be on one page and it's going to be scrolling. So I'm actually going to delete the hamburger menu. And then let's drag these over to that far right side column. And for these links, I'm just going to put let's talk, which is the same text as the call to action button, which is down here at the bottom, which is going to prompt the email from whoever's looking at your site. And then let's lowercase this. So we'll click the 2 lowercase t's there. Same with this one. And then for this, we'll go my work. So when the user clicks let's talk, it's going to scroll all the way down to the bottom and showcase the section. And same thing with my work. When they click that, it's going to scroll and start showcasing the section. All right, so that's the hero done. And now for the next section, it's just a simple paragraph. It's going to paste in some text and then change that to a paragraph and get that to the size I need it to be. For me, I'm putting turning your ideas into digital experiences. And to make this nice and stylized, let's grab your ideas, make that stand out with a nice medium weight. And same thing with digital experiences. Bolding those two should look cool, and turning them to a black text. Moving on down to the work section, I'm going to grab all three of these and change them to black. Then I have a folder of screenshots of some work I've did. For your site, I recommend using live websites of actual client work if you have some. So I'm using just designs I've made for YouTube. So I'm just going to drag in a placeholder one there. So here's one of the designs. And then we'll change the project name, and I'll put it with site of the day. For the next section, we just need to grab all the text one more time and change it to black. And again, I've already prepared some text I would like to display here. I'll just scale that to 4 columns wide. And we need some text for this. We'll paste that in and drag that out to make it 2 lines of text. Then for let's talk, we'll change that to white. And then finally, our last thing we need to change this to white. Say something like got an idea, ? And then let's turn off our grid layout. And if we hit live preview, we can take a look at the finished design. So we've got our nice hero section, award-winning designer with your name. I forgot to change that. I'll go ahead and put mine in for now. Also forgot to change this paragraph. And so I've just pasted in some text, and now I think we've finished all of the design. So here I just put a little bit more of descriptive text about what I do. And then here I just put based in Tokyo, Japan. Of course, I'm not in Tokyo, Japan. That'd be cool if I was. But if you want to put your location there, you can put that as well. So now if we hit live preview, there's the hero section, and we can scroll down, turning your ideas into digital experiences, kind of tying that into the digital experience text up here. And then scrolling down, this section will be repeated. The work text is going to stick. So it's going to keep sticking as we go through different pieces of our work. And on the live site, we're going to have these as an option where you can set this to a link. So if the user clicks on this or the heading, whichever one we decide to do, whichever one looks better, we will take that to a portfolio. Like if you have a Dribble or a Behance and you have this project there, you can do that. Or if it's a live site that you've actually created for a client, you can link it to there as well. That's your choice. So we scroll down, then eventually it will release the work text as we keep scrolling to this next and final section before the call to action. And with this section, I'll call it the statistics section. You can put whatever you'd like here. I just put in some template text. You can change that to your liking. Down to the final section, the call to action section, where if the client has an idea or they want to reach out, let's talk. They click on that. It's going to be a mail to link so they can send you an email. And that's going to do it with our high fidelity design. In the next video, part 2, we'll start developing the website using Webflow. Special thanks to Hostinger for sponsoring the series and making it all possible. Make sure you check them out with the link in the description, hostinger.com/Kaler, and make sure you use code Kaler at checkout for an additional 7% off your order. That's going to do it for this video. I'll see you guys in part 2. Check out these videos for more web design related content. And as always, have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.